Hi everyone, thanks for coming back and joining me for another video. So as promised at the beginning of the week, I'm going to start off the video talking about Her Majesty. And Her Majesty's coffin is lying in state at the moment. And the amount of people that are queuing up, hundreds of thousands of people that are queuing to see her just absolutely fills my heart with pride. It really does. I mean, these people are waiting hours and hours in all sorts of weather conditions. Anyone that knows the UK knows that we can have 4 seasons in one day, in an hour sometimes. There are families there with young children, there are elderly people there, there are ex and current serving military personnel, there are ex-prime ministers, celebrities, there are all sorts of people that are just lined up, and more importantly the public. There is no racism, there is no ageism, there is no sexism, there is no religion here. This is people from all walks of life, all different ages, that just want to go say goodbye to Her Majesty, and I find it truly wonderful, and again one of those moments that I'm really proud of my country. So continuing on with talking about Her Majesty, there has been some stories that have come out and I promised that I would share them as I found them, and there is one which is really very cute where a very young Prince William had fallen over and a staff member was running around trying to find Gary because Prince William only wanted Gary, and the Queen appeared and said, "It's not Gary, it's Granny, he can't say my name properly." And I just think that's absolutely adorable. So it was a bit of a nickname, I guess, that Prince William had called his grandmother. Thankfully I don't think Meghan was aware of that at the time, otherwise Archie probably would have been called Gary. So in another funny story that's come out, which I will read to you, Her Majesty's sense of humour really shines through here. So the story comes from a Sir Sherrod Cowper-Coles, and it was back in 1998 when the Crown Prince Abdullah of Saudi Arabia first visited Balmoral Castle. After having lunch with the Queen, she had asked her guest if he would like a tour of the estate. Initially hesitant, and he was prompted by his First Minister, Prince Saud, and finally agreed. So the royal Land Rovers were all lined up outside the front of the Balmoral Castle, and as instructed, the Crown Prince climbed into one of the vehicles, the passenger seat, and his interpreter climbed into the back. Much to his surprise, the Queen then climbed into the driver's seat. Obviously in 1998, women were not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia, let alone a queen. So Her Majesty started the vehicle and off they went. The Queen, an ex-army driver in the wartime, accelerated the Land Rover along the narrow Scottish estate roads, talking to him the entire time. He implored his translator to get the Queen to slow down and to concentrate on the road. And let's just say by the end of this little journey that they did around Balmoral Estate, he was a quivering wreck. So Queen Elizabeth II basically used her military-grade driving skills to terrify the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia on his visit. And there's just something about that I find wickedly and devilishly funny. And again, it's one of those moments where you can really be reminded of Her Majesty's sense of humour. So we've seen more of the royals out and about various points all over the country, and we'll start off with the Prince and Princess of Wales, Catherine and William, who were actually in Sandringham. They went out and they met with the crowds, they were talking to people, chatting with people, naturally going over to the babies, but not just Catherine this time, Prince William was as well. And they were listening to all of the messages of condolences and all the lovely messages that people have taken the time to go up there and to write and to show in forms of tributes of balloons, toys, flowers. Catherine was seen talking to some young school children, and she actually picked one of the girls to go help her lay flowers.
She's going to be missed by everybody, isn't she? Yeah. Do you want to come and help me with these now? She can find a spot with them. Yeah? Who's going to come with? Do you want to put your teddies down there too?
The young girl was a little bit overwhelmed later on when she, I think probably because she had a camera and people were obviously suddenly, interviewing her and stuff. She's only young herself. So I think what an experience for her when she's like, 18 or in her 20s or something, when they are obviously going to become king and queen consorts, to have that memory, to have that video footage of her, and she can be like, yeah, I was that little girl. It's just wonderful, I think, for her, and she'll probably come to really appreciate that as she grows up. Prince William was then seen laughing and joking with some more school children, and he was talking to them about Paddington Bear.
Yeah, do you like Paddington? Yeah. Did you see the skit with Paddington and my grandmother?
Yeah.
Yes, that was it.
It's fine, everyone.
Yeah. Did you all wonder what she'd have in her handbag? Yeah, I will never know what was in her handbag. Paddington did that. It's wonderful.
I don't know if you caught the end bit there, but he was basically saying that, you know, did you wonder what was in her handbag? Now we never know, only Paddington will know. And I just think it shows that really sweet, playful side of Prince William, even in this time where it must be truly upsetting for him and his family. And he even said that he didn't realise how many people saw the Queen, not just as the Queen, but as almost like an extension of our own family, as our own grandmothers. And it's true. I think that's why so many people have obviously been incredibly emotional about it, myself included. Now we saw Sophie and Edward as well. They were doing a walkabout in Manchester, and they went into Manchester Cathedral and lit some candles for the Queen. They later came out and they were obviously walking and chatting with various crowd members, and Sophie was asked by a young man called Josh if he could have a cuddle, which was very, very sweet. Princess Anne was visiting Glasgow City Chambers and she met with the public there. She stopped to chat to a mother with a little girl, and the little girl was holding 2 bunches of flowers, and Princess Anne actually starts saying to her, oh, you know, those flowers aren't for me though. And then the little girl handed her some pink ones and she said, these ones are for you. That's it, I'm off again. The bottom lip came out, the tears in the eyes. Now, before I set you all off again, I just want to share with you this cartoon, which I found highly amusing, and that is the corgis letting King Charles know that he's not going to get away with not taking them for their walkies, even though he is the new king. Now, speaking of Charles, he is in his Highgrove estate having some personal time out to grieve. Obviously, there is so much stuff going on behind the scenes, a lot of it that we're not aware of. There's so many things at play with the Queen's state funeral, and I just think he is having some time out to himself to personally grieve for his mother. And that's where I didn't like a story that's come out, and I'm going to correct it because I've seen the footage. And that is Prince Charles getting a little bit frustrated over an ink pen. He was signing an official document, bearing in mind he's probably not slept for several days, and his ink pen leaked. So he got a little bit frustrated and he said, this bloody pen. He didn't shout at anyone. He wasn't rude. He was just purely frustrated at a pen. But for some reason, the New York Post chooses this moment and this particular story to try and attack a man who has just lost his mother, who is waiting to bury her. And I just found it in really poor taste. But he definitely was not angry, and I can guarantee you, if I was signing something official and my ink pen burst all over my fingers, the air would have been a bit more colourful. So obviously the media games have been truly relentless, and apparently they're not the only one. According to various reports that have come out, Harry and Meghan have been relentless in pushing King Charles into styling their children Prince and Princess. And they are said to be furious that it's already been announced that they will not be styled their Royal Highnesses, His Royal Highness, Her Royal Highness. Now, the fact that they're furious about that, and the fact that they have been relentlessly pursuing Charles in this, why do they want their children to be Prince and Princess? This is Prince Harry, I would like to point out, who said that he was unhappy being a prince. This is Harry and Meghan that through Omid Scobie announced that they did not want the Lord and Lady titles for their children. They did not want Archie to be Lord Dumbarton. They wanted their child to grow up with a normal upbringing. They wanted him to be a private citizen. If you remember all of the stories, all of the interviews that they themselves said. They said that Harry and Meghan escaped the royal family. They have thrown petrol on all of the arguments to do with the reasons why it's a racist institution. The only reason why Archie wasn't made a prince is deep-rooted racism in the royal family. They've never forgiven Harry for marrying a biracial woman, and blah, blah, blah. So it brings me to the whole Oprah thing, where they turned around and said that, and they stirred up a lot of racism from Americans and from lots of countries around the world that hadn't been following their stories and all of the ridiculous things that they've done in their pursuit for fame and money, and all of the awful attacks that they have done on the royal family, which have been proven to be lies, jumped on board with it. It was racism, of course it was. So do those same people not find it odd that Harry and Meghan's team are quoting the George V letters patent in 1917, that the children do become Prince and Princess upon Charles's succession to the throne? So if they know that now, surely they would have known that then. So it is the fact that they lied on Oprah to stir up this racism narrative. They always knew that once the Queen passed and King Charles took his place as king, then their children are entitled to become Prince and Princess. They lied to everyone and they stirred up unnecessary racism. Now, what also makes me laugh here as well is the fact that so many people from the fallout of Oprah were basically demanding the abolishment of the monarchy, that it was a racist institute, the fact that Meghan was driven to the point of suicide while she was pregnant, mental health concerns from both of them. They burnt out, they had to escape in the dark of the night away from the palace vipers, the courtiers, and everything that the royal family stood for. That just by merely existing, they were upsetting the hierarchy of the monarchy. Meghan's words from 2 weeks ago. Yet here they are making demands that their children are ranked and not linked by the same archaic institutes. And poor Meghan was tortured just because she was a black woman that married a white prince in a white family, the royal family, all of the history that they have attacked. And yet here they are demanding that it's Princess Lily and Prince Archie. You just cannot make up this level of stupidity and hypocrisy. Now, I personally think the best thing that King Charles can do here is to actually turn around and say that the children can become prince and princess upon turning 18 or 21 when it becomes their choice. This same choice has been given to Lady Louise and to James Viscount Severn, which is Sophie the Countess of Wessex and Prince Edward's children, the direct grandchildren of our now past Queen Elizabeth. So when they turn 18, they have the choice. Now, I think the same thing should be passed to Archie and Lily. That way, they can't say that it's unfair. At the end of the day, they are being raised as US citizens. Harry wanted them to be private US citizens, if you remember at the beginning. They didn't want titles. They want them to have a normal life. They did not want them to grow up, these are Harry's words, with the same trappings that he had by being called a prince. There are several times when Harry has said that he doesn't like the UK, that he didn't want to be part of the royal family, and he did not like being a prince. So why on earth is he now demanding that that is being bestowed on his children? It doesn't make sense, does it? We all know the reason why, and it all comes down to cold hard cash and marketability. But that's where I think it would head them off at the pass by making the children have a choice when they turn that age. And I'm not being funny. They're going to grow up as US celebrity children. Why on earth would they want to take up roles as being part of the royal family? And by then the rules might have changed. We don't know. I mean, Charles is, getting on a bit. We don't know by the time they turn 18 if we don't have King William and Queen Catherine by then. I know it's a terrible thought, but let's just be practical. The other thing as well, if Harry insists that his children are prince and princess in America, a country that does not have a monarchy, that actually fought a war to get rid of the monarchy, that do not like titles, that a lot of them are already irritated that Meghan trying to delve into politics is insisting people call her the Duchess of Sussex. Well, he's putting a target on his children's backs. Now, I don't just mean security concerns, I mean bullies at school. Children bully each other. Now, can you imagine some American children that are well aware that they don't have prince or princesses? The bullying that would happen to Archie and to Lily. Oh, yes, your highness, do a curtsy. Kids are cruel, and I just don't understand why Harry is going back on everything that he's always said. He wanted to and did step back. He left the royal family. They did not want to be part of the royal family anymore, and he wanted his children to have a normal life. So by calling them prince and princess is somewhat hypocritical. So let's get on to the uniforms. Yes, this one, the drama llamas are at it, and it again is the typical mouthpieces stirring the pot. We had it at Prince Philip's funeral. I would say that we had it at Prince Philip's memorial, but Harry and Meghan decided they weren't going to bother coming over for that. Now, obviously, you know my take on Harry and Meghan, but right here, right now, I'm going to do something that you might find shocking, and that is I'm going to defend Harry due to a statement that his team put out. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, will wear a mourning suit throughout events honouring his grandmother. His decade of military service is not determined by the uniform he wears, and we respectfully ask that the focus remain on the life and the legacy of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. So that actually comes directly from Harry and Harry's team. He's saying that he doesn't care and please respect his grandmother. So all of the arguments that we're seeing, all of the clickbait news articles that are coming out and social media, people are fighting amongst each other, there's polls going on. That's actually not Harry. That statement's Harry. The arguments that we're seeing and the demands and the screams of unfairness, come from media personalities, celebrities from different countries that do not understand our customs or our royal family. Members of the public that have been screaming how unfair it is and how Harry's being singled out. I'd like to point out the picture that's being used and circulated. They cut off Prince Andrew, but they cut off as well Peter Phillips. He is the firstborn grandson of the Queen. Okay, he did not serve in the military, but let's not pretend that Harry was the only one stood there in mourning suits. Lots of the people around them, they are cutting the photographs again like they did with the tour with William and Catherine in Jamaica to suit a narrative. It's just very typical for all of the stirring of the pot to be happening, and in this instance, as far as I'm concerned, Harry's statement says that he didn't care and he's respecting his grandmother's wishes. So for people like Omid Scobie to then be declaring across social media, it's confirmed that Prince Harry is not allowed to wear a uniform. Well, as it turns out, Omid, it wasn't confirmed. So again, with the wooden spoon. But because Omid has done so many things on the demands of Meghan and Harry, I'm struggling to believe that, is Harry really entirely innocent in all of this? Are they deliberately putting the debate to the public so the palace feel pressured to do so? So at the time of filming this video, it's come out that Harry will be allowed to wear his uniform when he is with the rest of the grandchildren doing the Virgil, which means that they will stand around the Queen's coffin. We have got Andrew, Charles, Princess Anne and Edward all doing it today. You'll have to forgive me for not using their full titles all the time. It's getting a bit of a mouthful. But they are doing it today. And then the grandchildren, I think, are supposed to be doing it tomorrow, of which King Charles has said that he would like Harry to wear his uniform. Now, which uniform they're going to pick, I don't know. I think the Captain General of the Royal Marines might be a bit much, given obviously Harry ditching his responsibilities to take Meghan to the Lion King premiere. But back to what is in question. The Virgil is not the state funeral on Monday. This is a private moment for the family, for the grandchildren to show and pay their respects to their grandmother. So you will have Prince William at the front, you will have Harry at the rear. You will have Prince William flanked by Zara Tindall and Peter Phillips, and at the rear you will have Harry flanked with Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice, and then we will have Lady Louise and James Viscount Severn in the middle. This is a very personal moment for their family, and the Uniforms Act 1984 does state that nobody, once they leave service, are allowed to wear the uniforms unless granted special permission by Her Majesty the Queen. Obviously, it's now His Majesty the King. This is Charles's wish. They are his sons. This is a family moment. This is different to the state funeral, which is happening Monday. And as Harry's statement says, that he will be wearing his mourning suit throughout, which will be his grandmother's wishes. My point is here that this is Charles's decision, and I respect that. This is the last time that Harry is ever going to wear military uniform, and it is something that means a lot to him. I know before there's lots of you saying it shouldn't matter, but this is Charles's choice and it's his family, so I'm not going to say anything more on that point. However, when it comes to the state funeral and these people that don't really understand why Harry's not allowed to wear his uniform, he left. He resigned his job. He didn't just quit and then people were cruel to him and took things away from him. At the end of the day, Harry, he left. He did Megxit. He didn't really speak to his family and declared Megxit like it was like all-out war on his family. But they did the Sandringham Summit. The Queen also graciously gave them a year to change their minds, if you remember. Harry would have been given every single detail of what this would have entailed, that they would lose their security, that their children will not be his and her Royal Highnesses, that, you know, that the military patronages, everything would all be gone. These decisions wouldn't have been made lightly, and Harry would have been made very clear. It was reported at the time that the Queen and Charles and William tried to convince Harry to stay. He refused. He wanted to take his family and lead a normal life, a civilian life, and go live in America. So when it comes to the uniform, people aren't being cruel to Harry. They're not doing anything to Harry that doesn't stand for any other member, ex-servicemen and women in the United Kingdom that have served Queen and country and now King and country. If you leave, you cannot wear uniform, but you can wear your medals. How many times have we seen veterans on parade, you know, when we've got the Remembrance Sundays, when we've got all of the different events events and parades that happen all around the world every year, Commonwealth countries. We see the veterans wearing their polished medals with pride. They don't demand or moan to wear their uniforms because they don't need to tell the world what they did. They don't need the world to look at their uniform to see what rank they were or how many years that they served, where it was that they fought. Because the point is, they know that they served Queen and country, and they did it with pride. Medals are something that are truly treasured with servicemen and women all around the world. Medals are the ones that are polished, that you see on their dinner jackets and their formal wear. Medals that are also, when they are not on parade, they are taken home and stored in boxes, or they're framed and put up on the wall in pride of place. Medals are the thing that breaks my heart when you read that someone has been burgled and it's their medals or their father's medals or their mother's or their grandparents' medals that have been stolen. It's one of the cruelest things that I think people can truly do. You know, but that's where it is. And Harry is allowed to wear his medals. He is allowed to be there. The photograph, like I said, is being cut where you don't see Andrew, you don't see Peter Phillips. These are also son, grandchild, and then you've obviously got other people, close family members that are also in mourning suits wearing their medals. Harry is not a victim here. And a narrative that is being pushed by his mouthpiece and various other royal reporters that you know are Team Montecito, it's just stirring up unnecessary hatred, unnecessary cruel articles at a family that are grieving. Now, Harry's statement, like I said that he is respecting his grandmother's wishes and he wants the focus to be on her. That's Harry's own words. And I wish everyone that is speaking on behalf of Harry or declaring how unfair it is for Harry actually listens to Harry's words themselves. People are saying that they think that Charles caved and given in to a petulant demands of Prince Harry and Prince Andrew. Maybe he did. Maybe he did. Maybe he did it for a quiet life, just for them to have 15 minutes, wear their military uniforms, and then it's done and it's dusted. There is never going to be an opportunity for them to demand or to wear it ever again. This is a man that is grieving. This is a family that are grieving. Sometimes you give the child the dummy just to keep them quiet. As I said, you know, I always try and be fair. I don't know how much Harry and Meghan are involved in a lot of these nasty stories that are coming out. But as Richard Eden pointed out, it's a little bit odd that the moment that LA wakes up, the stories and the updates seem to be filtering through. So I think there's probably someone furiously texting from inside the palace walls. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. And I will be back with you Tuesday. I will not be back in between because I want to watch all of the ceremonies and stuff for my own personal goodbyes and reasons, and I will be back with you next week. So take care for now, guys, and I'll speak to you in the comments. Bye.
If you would like to buy me a coffee, please go to my About page and click the link. Love, Taz.